just to wake up in the morning to the quiet as the cove and hear one could see talking to herself. Do you want to sing it with me? I was born down by the water. I'm here where I'm going to stay. I should follow the leaders, but I should go away. But I
haven't got the
first was modern day, so I'll stay and take my chances with those saltwater joys.
Good work, buddy.
Okay.
Buddy Wassisname and the other fellas were around for a long time, through most of my childhood, if not all my childhood. And I always took them as a bit of a comedy act. The music that they performed while performing their comedy was good, but I always thought of them as silly and great, but not a musical powerhouse. That was my thought as a kid.
On the highway in the gravel pits.
But that was not correct. They are so important to Newfoundland and Labrador. I think right now they get their flowers. People respect them for everything that they do. But I think when the story is finally closed on them and they retire for good, people are really going to miss them because they put a smile on people's faces consistently with their silliness and their antics. But some of the music that they've performed and written will go down, I believe, in history as like the most important contributions to the Newfoundland and Labrador music scene. In particular, Saltwater Joys. Heading from the east, from St. John's or the Avalon, heading into Terra Nova from the eastern entrance, Charlottetown pops up quick. It's a small town on the water. The claim to fame for Charlottetown is Saltwater Joys. In recent years, apparently, Clayton's Wharf has become a bit of a tourist draw for the town. Terra Nova National Park is beautiful for so many reasons, but one of the sort of unsung heroes of the park is Charlottetown, and specifically Clayton's Wharf. As you drive into Charlottetown, I didn't have the sense about me to actually shoot the sign with my camera as we were coming in, but it says Charlottetown, home of Saltwater Joys. When you're into the town, there are some storyboards that tell the story of Buddy Wassisname and the other fellas, and particularly Saltwater Joys. And where the storyboards exist, you're standing at a wharf, or a couple of wharfs actually, but the actual Clayton's Wharf is not located where those storyboards are. So I had an image of Clayton's Wharf from the book that was actually the song Saltwater Joys, sort of transcribed into children's story form. And the picture of the boy looking out the window, you see Platter's Island, you see Clayton's Wharf. I knew the angle, I was looking for the angle of the wharf and with the island where it was. So we drove along the main road a little further. Yeah, ended up finding it. It's not well marked, the actual Clayton's Wharf, but we found it and we got some beautiful shots of it. My son got out with the book. I got a couple of beautiful shots of him holding the book at the wharf. He appreciated it even though he's very young. The gulls weren't swarming like flies, but there were a few birds around that sort of made a very peaceful night seem even more fulfilling.
Gulls like flies surrounding Clayton's Wharf.
Now beyond Platter's Island and Clayton's Wharf and Saltwater Joys and Buddy Wassisname, one of my other favorite songs that is actually written in Newfoundland, the song Lukey's Boat, is a song about Lukey, who grew up in Norton's Cove / Brookfield, Newfoundland. Now I drove through Brookfield the same day that we drove to Charlottetown, and I paid a visit to Norton's Cove Gallery. The owner, Janet, is actually the owner of Norton's Cove Cafe as well. We didn't time it well, so the cafe wasn't open when we were there. They were opening, but we had to go. But I stopped and talked to her, and she was kind enough to get on camera and tell me a little history of her gallery and cafe, but a history of the building, the beautiful historic building that her gallery is situated in. A little bit of the history of the town of Brookfield, formerly known as Norton's Cove, and of course the story of how Lukey's Boat kind of came to be. And I'll let her share the story directly rather than try to paraphrase, because she was kind enough to speak on camera and share the information. So please enjoy Janet from the Norton's Cove Gallery and Cafe in Brookfield, Newfoundland.
I'm Janet Davis, and this is Norton's Cove Studio. This is my print shop that's open to the public year-round. We're located in Brookfield in Bonavista Bay, which is on the north side of Bonavista Bay. So a lot of people are really familiar with Bonavista, but we're on the opposite side of that great big bay. I was born here, in a hospital just up the road, and I went away from home just long enough to find out that I wanted to come home. So, yeah. So Norton's Cove is the old name for Brookfield. So it was called Norton's Cove up until around the, I think the 1920s. They still called it Norton's Cove. It was some of the Kane family who built this place that decided to change the name to Brookfield back then. Lukey's boat was written by Virtue Kane, or Han, as she was born. Virtue would have been standing behind the counter on a daily basis right where I am. She ran the shop from its inception in 1890 up until her death in 1929. It was built as a general store, back in 1890. They sold everything, your building supplies, your fishing supplies, your household goods. So from the things you were wearing to the things you were eating and the things you were using at work, they sold everything. Virtue wrote the song and she performed it at the town hall in Brookfield, just right there. The hall is gone now, but when it was there, she was up there and performed Lukey's boat. Lukey's boat is painted green, and of course, Lukey was in the audience at the time. Lukey would have been Lukey Galton, whose house was just across the cove on Galton's Point. So when she had finished all of her verses, making fun of how cheap he was with his grub and the silly color of his boat and all of that, he got up and added a last verse, which put the whole place up in uproar. Now, a little bit of a backstory there. Virtue Kane was married to Captain Job Kane, who was away at sea for much of the year on ships. And they were also instrumental in starting Brookfield Hospital. When the doctors first came to Brookfield, they stayed with Virtue at her house. So when Lukey jumped up on stage and added a verse, it was, and Virtue Kane, she wrote this song up with the doctors all night long. And of course we have some things from other people too, but it's mostly my own work. My husband contributes too, and he makes all these great rope pieces that you see around. And then there's, Eric Windsor, who lives just up the road. Everything is just up the road here. So Eric Windsor comes in and does some prints here, and we offer those for sale as well. And then there's other pieces around by, jewelry by, just people who I think are doing a beautiful job. At Norton's Cove Cafe, we opened in 2017. So after many years already here in my studio talking to tourists, we realized that there was a real need for really healthy, nutritious food. So we opened the restaurant, and everybody loves it. So the restaurant is seasonal, and because we do see mostly tourism. Tourists are our biggest market. And so we're open from, we try to be open from May till October, but this year is a real short one. The lower deck is open downstairs as well, so it's just a cool place to go sit and have a coffee or a glass of wine or whatever while you're waiting for your reservation, or maybe you just need to zone out for a few minutes. It's a place to go. Yeah, you can grab a coffee from upstairs and go down there. And we have live shows there about once a month. Yeah. For any kind of open hours, which change every now and again, I would direct you to my website. It's nortonscove.com. You'll find everything you ever want to know about us.
Both places.
Both places, yeah.
Okay, perfect. I talk about Newfoundland and Labrador on this channel. If you enjoy that type of thing, maybe you'll enjoy some of the other videos. Have a poke around and see some of them. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing.